Roger, before we get to Pichai and Dorsey and Zuckerberg, I guess I just wonder whether or not you feel like this is a half-hearted sell-off, or if there are real concerns about not just the dynamics of a lockdown, but whether or not even consumers in the U.S. or in Europe would react to lockdowns the way they did in the spring.
Yeah, Carl, I think there's so much uncertainty about what the actual economic numbers are. Obviously, earnings have been excellent, and the gaps that we're seeing in each economic report, up and down, are so large that it really is, I think, an enormous challenge for any investor to make sense of what's coming next. The threat of a lockdown is something that, I mean, the country really never experienced the kind of lockdowns that Europe had, which explains, at least in part, why our numbers are so bad. And the notion that we would not prepare, that we would not aggressively take steps to limit the harm from another wave. I mean, from a point of view of an investor, that's going to be very, very bad for the economy, very bad for earnings, because we're not going to be able to protect the economy if we can't stop the virus.
Yeah, John, one of the more optimistic takes I saw this morning came out of Fundstrat, and that is you look at the resurgence in Europe, a lot of it is recurring in the same cities that had a problem in the spring. That's obviously not the dynamic in the U.S. In our case, it's involving areas of the country, and mostly rural areas, really, that have not had a spike before. So the narrative there would be it's more of a cross-country burn as opposed to a repeat of the problem.
Yeah, it's complicated here, Carl. I mean, you and I both know on the East Coast, particularly New York, New Jersey area, we were hit really hard, and we did experience the kind of lockdowns that Europe experienced. Right now, the rest of the country going through approaching something like that, but our medical professionals are more prepared. But what's not clear, I think, is how well people who are not as well off, who don't have health insurance, who can't afford to miss work and go to the hospital, how they would deal with this, despite the fact that perhaps death is less likely an occurrence. And at the same time, all of this issue in the United States hangs over earnings as companies report. This is reflected in enterprise spending weakness in the U.S. At the same time, we're hearing that in China, the economy there has come roaring back and is almost back to normal. So there is a cost here, both in the potential lockdowns themselves, but in just not dealing with the virus as well as many would have hoped that we would have dealt with it by now.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.